Nah, we better than that. That's the title of my piece. The struggle to evolve into a republic. In the corruption and perception index, the lower the rank, the more corrupt. Trinidad ranks 82nd out of 180 nations. This does not look too bad until you realize that Barbados is ranked 29, Bahamas 30, St. Vincent and St. Lucia 42, Dominica 45, Grenada 52, and Jamaica 70. So in the newly independent Caribbean, we rank really, really poorly. So it is not surprising that Gail Alexander of the Trinidad Guardian claims a total of 1,831 suspicious transactions and suspicious activity reports worth $27 billion. That's nearly half of a budget, and that's between 2019 and 2020. And this is the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago making that report. It is the most it has received in a 10-year history. Now, on the other side of the coin, I know that trying to get anything done in Trinidad and Tobago is practically impossible. Planning permission, that's a nightmare. Many business people have gone to other Caribbean countries as a result. The time lapse between your application and your getting the permission is either corruption, incompetence, I would say, or both. But everything from getting a driver's license for a young person to building permission to build something is a major drama in this country. This is reflected in the Ease of Doing Business Index, where Trinidad and Tobago ranks 105th out of 190 nations. Corruption. In his 1996 Calypso, Another Day in Paradise, David Ruther says, but then forge is the first word of the anthem. You see, we so damn corrupt, that is the problem. In his poetic best, Ruther has named the challenge facing our nation. Things have only gotten worse since then. When a nation is corrupt and there's no ease of doing business, the citizen is being denied a fundamental right. And that right is justice. And this is the basic expectation of fairness in a society. V.S. Naipaul, in the middle passage, described Trinidad as a picaroon society. The picaroon, or the Trinidadian, is at the heart of our national psyche. Psychologically, the picaroon is incapable of accepting boundaries and limits. This is a hustler who uses wit to survive. He says, this is Naipaul, slavery, the mixed population, the absence of national pride, and the closed colonial system have to a remarkable degree recreated the attitudes of the Spanish picaroon world. On a note of redemption, however, Naipaul says, to bring political organization to the picaroon society with its taste for corruption and violence and its lack of respect for the person has its own dangers. Such a society cannot immediately become responsible, but it can only be re-educated through responsibility, and change must come from the top. If Naipaul is right, then we need to hold the elites and the politicians, the religious leader, and all those who have responsibility in society to a very different standard. This change in operation will be painful at best, and in the short term, it will be very difficult uphill battle. In the long term, however, I don't know that we have a choice if we want to live in this twin island republic. Justice. In his Republic, Plato explores the notion of justice. He argues convincingly that in each person's best interest to be just. And this argument is done in both an ethical and a political context. Without justice, there can be no republic. It is the one ingredient that is indispensable for good order. If the citizens of the republic cannot trust each other to act justly, there is no social cohesion, no bond that holds the individuals into a collective, no trust of neighbor, and ultimately no real community, no real family, no integrity. Change, Naipaul reminds us, has to come from the top. As a young republic, we need to face our truth very consciously. It is my considered view that the core challenges facing our nation is that we, the citizens, have not committed to justice on the individual level, the level of the organization, or of the nation. This lack of commitment of the citizens to justice has become a cancer eating the body politic of our beloved Trinidad and Tobago. It makes no sense. As Rudder says, this is not a fete here. This is madness. Every good citizen wants the Commissioner of Police, the Minister of National Security, and the Prime Minister to solve the murder problem. They cannot solve it until we, the citizens, are willing to recognize that the murder problem has its roots in a more fundamental challenge: injustice that pervades the whole of the nation. This is a we problem, and only we, the citizens, can solve it, and to do that, we must commit to justice. Whether we look at the work of the Integrity Commission or the lack of resources that frustrates the Sentencing Commission, or the number of people in remand yard, or the fact that successive governments have broken the law in thousands of different ways, we need a proactive and timely judiciary that ensures justice for all of our citizens. And this, we have no way around. If we want transparency, we also need whistleblower legislation that allows for corruption to be exposed with a sense of safety. Also, we need effective procurement legislation to ensure transparency and integrity in all procurement of the state. And these would go a long way in helping us to come to transparency. The fact is, however, we don't have adequate legal framework for transparency and integrity because we, the citizens, and there are not enough citizens who demand justice, transparency, and integrity from all citizens, from the government, and from all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. There is one root to this web of challenge facing our nation. We, the citizens, have not committed ourselves to living justice, and integrity is the fruit of a commitment to justice. Institutional unfairness is what happens when there's only a commitment to the self, and that's what pervades. D.R. Brahendry, in a paper on Plato's concept of justice, says, Plato contended that justice is the quality of soul, in virtue of which men set aside the irrational desire to taste every pleasure and to get a selfish satisfaction out of every object and accommodate themselves to the discharge of a single function for the general benefit. This is about the common good. We need an exaggerated responsibility for this. Justice is not a mathematical formula measuring equality. It is a virtue, a habit of the soul. It is a bond that joins the citizens together to form a nation. It is the harmony of the parts that make one whole. It is the soul as health is to the body. It is a spiritual quality that we must all cultivate regardless of our religious persuasion. Without the cultivation of an appreciation of justice at every level of our society, we will continue to accelerate into the mire of lawlessness that we are witnessing. In the 35th message of World Day of Peace, St. John Paul II said, "There is no peace without justice, and we want peace in TNT, but we are unwilling to make the basic commitment incumbent upon every citizen. That is justice." In conclusion, to achieve justice in the Republic, according to Plato, we need first to have just laws that are, second, strengthened by the institutions and resources that are needed for them to work. And third, citizens formed with sound character. I want you to hear this very clearly, We need a national campaign to promote justice as a virtue lived by every citizen. If Transparency Institute Trinidad and Tobago intends to achieve its goal, then it needs to work with all people, groups, and institutions. We need this to be led by the example of the elites of our society. We have to think of these islands as our home for 4 generations to come. Then we need to ask, what do we need to do today if our children and their children's children are to stay and make TNT their home? I believe our first action is a national campaign of education for justice that transforms the minds, the hearts, the actions of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. That would be a brilliant, brilliant first step. Every one of us must commit the exaggerated responsibility for the common good. That is the good of the collective, of all of us. Selfishness, individualism has brought us to where we are right now. And unless we are willing to move beyond self and commit to the common good, commit to Trinidad and Tobago, commit to becoming a people, then, I don't know how to move forward. But now, we better than that. We can make such a commitment.